How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to an episode here on Let's Build Twitter. As always, I'm Ethan, or Unknown Coder, your favorite underqualified senior software engineer. And as always, if you guys do want access to that private repository, there's a link in the description down below. I'll walk you through exactly how to get access to that. With that being said, let's go and hop into what we're working on today. Today, we're going to go ahead and continue working on getting some of the more message stuff kind of figured out. Specifically, today, we want to go ahead and start working on being able to actually read the messages. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to hop into the backend first. We're going to make a couple of changes to make it a little bit easier on the front end. And we're going to go ahead and set it up so whenever we open up a message, click on a conversation, it'll go ahead and actually allow us to read all the messages that we haven't read inside that conversation. So that being said, let's go and hop into code and get to work here. So today we're going to be starting out inside of our notification service. We want to come down to where we have our read message notifications. We need to make a small change here and there. First, what we need to go ahead and do is come down here and change this from a public void to a public list of notification. We want to go ahead and return all the notifications, and now it's going to be mad because we're not returning any notifications. So let's come down here and go below our this.acknowledge notifications. And we're going to go ahead and say return notification repository, and we're going to go ahead and return all of those notifications. So we're going to say .get by recipient and notification type in order by notification timestamp descending. It's a mouthful. We're going to go ahead and throw in recipient here, and then here we're going to make a new list. So we're going to say list.of, and here we want notification type dot, and then this is going to be message. So we're going to basically do this to make our lives a little bit easier on the front end. That way we don't have to do as much sorting and as much like manipulation to the list as possible. So here, basically, instead of just passing back specifically the ones that were read and then having to go through and kind of modify the list of notifications on the front end, here we can go ahead and just pass back all the notifications that are relayed to message for this user and then go ahead and show them on the front end. So with that being said, now I need to go ahead and make a new DTO to pass back this information. Let's go ahead and say space JC to go ahead and make a new class. It's going to go into DTO, and then this is going to be read message response DTO, like so. And in here, that's going to be pretty simple. We're going to have a private list of message DTO, and then this will go ahead and just be called read messages. Really, I think this should be all messages is what we ended up doing, but it is fine. Public conversation, we're going to pass back the updated conversation again just to make our lives a little bit easier. I have a private list of notification, and then this will be notifications. Let's go ahead and get this stuff imported. So let's go ahead and import the list. I hate that the list won't import automatically and it does some weird stuff. Import conversation and import notification. And let's go ahead and set up a public, and I'm just going to do one here. So public read message response DTO, and then here we're going to go ahead and pass list of message. Maybe if I could type DTO, I can't type, it's early, and then this will be read messages. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry guys. Read messages. We'll have our conversation, and we'll have our list of notification and notifications. There we go. Then we'll just say this dot, and then read messages is equal to read messages. We'll say this dot conversation is equal to conversation. And we'll say this dot notifications is equal to notifications. I don't know what's going on with our read messages, so we'll need to take a look at that. So this dot read messages, I forgot the S on the end. Cool, that's fine. And we'll go ahead and just set up some getters and setters. So I'll say space CA, generate our getters and setters, and also go ahead and do a toString. We'll add all three, that's fine, and that is good to go. So now we have set up a way to pass back this information to update our front end easier. We've also updated our notification service, and now we need to go ahead and update our message service. So let's hop into our message service. Inside of our message service, let's scroll down to where we can read a message. So now instead of passing back a list of message, what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to pass back a read message response DTO. And then this is going to complain obviously because right now we're returning message repository.save all. We'll need to go ahead and fix that. So now what we want to go ahead and do is first we want to go ahead and add another filter here. So we're going to go ahead and add a filter under this guy. I'm going to say .filter and message. And here we're going to go say not message.scene, or I guess it's .get. Whoops. Get, maybe if I could type, scene by, and then we're gonna go ahead and say dot contains maybe and user. So we want to go ahead and filter out. We only want to get the ones that we haven't seen, basically. That way it's gonna make things a little bit better. And then after that, we're gonna go ahead, instead of saying notification service.read, we're gonna go ahead and say list of notification, and then notifications is equal to notification list. Let's go ahead and bring this in. So now we'll actually, whoops, that's not what I wanted. Let me go ahead and bring in the correct notification. I don't know why it's not bringing in the correct one. There we go. We need those to actually go ahead and pass back. And then here as well, we're going to go ahead, instead of returning this, we'll go ahead and say messages to read is equal to message repository.save all. So then we'll go ahead and save those as well of our list of message DTO. And then here we'll say read messages DTO is equal to message or messages to read dot stream. We're going to go ahead and map these to a message DTO. So we're going to say dot map, and then in here we'll go ahead and say message. It will return a new message DTO like so, and then just pass in that message. And then we'll go ahead and say dot to list. We could have put that on a line. It is what is. And now the last we need is a conversation. So now we're going to go ahead and update the conversation. We saved everything. So we go ahead and say conversation is equal to conversation service dot find by ID. We can just go ahead and find the conversation ID, and then we'll get that updated conversation. Let's see what's wrong with this. Messages to read dot stream. Messages to read is because message DTO is not pulled in. Here we could have done some manipulation to the conversation itself, but again, it's easier just to pull the updated one. Then we'll go ahead and return a new red message response DTO, and then here we can have red messages DTO of our conversation, have notifications, and then we can pass that back. So now we're gonna have a compilation error inside of our conversation controller, or not conversation controller, our message controller. So let's hop in there. So once again, inside of our message controller, we'll have our @get mapping. So now instead of a list of messages, this is gonna return a red, whoops, message and response DTO. Let's go ahead and import this and save everything, and let me make sure that my application restarted, and then we should be good to go here. Now we've gotten our application restarted. I also went ahead and recreated a conversation. Now it's time to get to work on the front end. Now the front end work is going to be a little bit finicky, so hopefully everything works out because I don't have that much time to record, but I do see a world where I screw something up and forget something and break everything. But to start out, we're going to go ahead and go into our notification interface here in our global interfaces, and we're going to go ahead and add in the message. And this is going to be a message or null. I can't believe I haven't had this in there yet. And then inside of our message itself, or actually before we get to our message, we need to make another interface. So we're going to export interface, and this is going to be called reaction. And this is because we're going to go and update our message interface. So this will be message reaction ID, which is a number. We're going to have our reaction user, which is a user array. And this shouldn't be a user array, this should just be a user. And then finally, we have a reaction, which is a string. I don't know why I had that as user array. This is a typo. And then down here, I'm just going to go ahead and add in our 3 new fields. So we'll have our reply to, which is a message or null. We'll have our hidden by, which is a user array. And then we'll finally have our reactions, which is a reaction array. So we're just going to go ahead and add in all of that new stuff that we added in the backend in previous episodes. So that's good to go. And now we need to go ahead and do kind of like the bulk of the work here, which is going to be inside message slice. And then after that, we have to do a bunch of work to get everything else kind of working and updated. So let's go and hop into the message slice. So here inside the message slice, we're going to add a new piece of logic. This one, it says I add on line 15. It doesn't really matter where I add it, but this is going to say init complete. and Boolean, and this is going to be added to help out with an issue that I've been running into with things not loading properly. Whenever I was trying to read messages and stuff, it was causing it to reload everything every single time. It's because we're not pulling in stuff properly. So hopefully this will fix it. So once again, we'll go ahead and add in our init complete, and this will go ahead and be false to start out. So whenever we actually load in our conversations, we'll set that to true, and then that way we'll know whether or not for sure we have actually pulled everything in. And I don't actually remember seeing this in the code elsewhere, so maybe I ended up not even needing this, but we'll see. And then we'll go ahead and go below our send message, I believe, and we'll go ahead and say export const read messages is equal to create async thunk. And then inside here, we'll go ahead and pass in, we'll have our message slash read, and we'll go ahead and have async, async, and then payload. And I forgot to create this. Of course I did. And this will be a read, message payload. I'll go ahead and make that in a second, and we'll have our thunk, API, and create our arrow function. And let's go ahead and create this read message payload that I completely forgot to create somehow. I'll put it here. So interface send message payload, and then in here, we're just gonna have a user ID, which is a number. We're going to have a conversation ID, which is a number. And finally, we'll have a token, which is a string. Cool. So now that should be fine and shouldn't complain anymore. Well, maybe it still will. I maybe typoed something. Let's see. We don't want send message. We want read message. There we go. Now we can actually go ahead and work on the thunk. So now we can go ahead and say async, which we already have. We're going to go ahead and pass a try. And here we say let res equal to await axios.get. And here we'll have backticks http:// and then we'll have our local host :8000 /message/read ? And here we'll have user ID is equal to $ curly brace, and then payload dot user ID. We'll have and then conversation ID is equal to $ curly brace payload dot conversation ID. And then here after this, we'll go ahead and have a comma and then space. Actually, we need to set up our, not that, we need to do this. And then we can say headers. And inside headers, let's go ahead and make this look prettier. Looks good. We'll have our authorization, : and then backticks, bear, $ curly brace, and then payload dot token. So there's that. Let's see what I broke here. We go ahead and add in a catch E. I'm assuming this is a problem. If not, we'll figure it out. We also, before we actually do this, let me make sure everything lines up. It looks like it's lining up. We need to go ahead and return res.data. We have to do one more thing with this after we get done with that, but I'll deal with that when we get to that point. Otherwise, we'll return our thunk API.reject with value, and then go ahead and pass it E. It shouldn't fail because everything should be there. So it is what it is. That looks good. And now with this being said, we need to come down here. First, we're going to update on line 266 or around 266 where we load in our conversations. So that's load conversation pending, load conversation fulfilled. So here after our conversations, we're going to go ahead and put init complete. We're going to put that to true. So once we have brought in all of our conversations, we'll go and do that. And then after our, and this actually, do we want open conversations? No, it's definitely init. So then after our open conversations, we're going to go ahead and add in another builder.add case. And then here, this is going to be read messages.fulfilled. I'm going to be a little bit lazy and only do the fulfilled state action. It shouldn't fail, because the only way that can really fail is the conversation doesn't exist. So it is what it is. I don't think we have to really worry about that too much. Now we can go ahead and do the logic that will probably break somewhere. So const, and we'll say read messages, conversation, notifications is equal to action.payload. And then we'll also say const updated unread messages will be an I notification array, and equal to this. And then we need to say read messages dot for each. And this is going to be kind of ugly, but we couldn't really do much about it. We're going to go ahead and say message is a message like so. And then do our, whatever this is called, our error function. It's early, I'm sorry. Say state dot unread messages dot for each. We need to kind of loop through both these arrays and clean stuff out. And then here we'll say for each unread message, we'll have another error function. And here we'll say if unread message dot message and unread, actually we'll say and message dot message ID is not equal to unread message dot message dot message ID, because unread message is actually a notification. In this point, we're going to say updated unread messages dot push, and then go ahead and push that unread message. So basically, if the message is inside of our read messages list, we'll go ahead and take it out of our unread messages array. Otherwise, we'll add it. And then here, we'll go ahead and say state is equal to dot 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 state. We'll go ahead and update this. So unread messages, updated unread messages. So we update the state there. And then we have to check to see if we have a state dot conversation. So this is why the state is getting updated there, and then we're going to update it again in here. So if we have a conversation, we're going to say const updated conversations is equal to state.conversations.map. I'm just going to put C here because I'm lazy. C like so. So then we're going to go ahead and say if c.conversation ID is equal to conversation.conversation ID. And conversation here is a conversation that we're getting from our action.payload. Maybe we could have named it something a little bit better. We'll return a conversation from the payload. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and do is return C, the original conversation. And what do we do here that I did wrong? The updated unread messages. I think I spelled unread message wrong. That should be an S. There we go. So here we will go ahead and update the list of all of our conversations. And then we'll go ahead and say state is equal to dot 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 state. And we'll also go ahead and update conversation. We'll also update conversations with our updated conversations. So the reason why there's a lot of room for error here as we return our state is because we have like 3 different things to update whenever we read a message. When you get rid of the notifications of our unread messages, and then we also need to go ahead and update the specific conversation that we have open, if we have one open, and then also we need to update the conversations that we have in general. So I might have actually wanted to also, well, I guess it doesn't matter because we're going to have the conversation open for sure, so that's fine. I was just thinking maybe we read the message but the conversation wasn't open, but that doesn't make any sense. We're going to read the message whenever we open the conversation. So that is good to go there. Now, what's going to get a little bit weird and a little bit finicky is we have to make some changes to both the conversation container. Then we need to make some changes to the app and use webhook to go ahead and read and make everything work properly. So first, let's hop into the conversation container and make so when we open it up, it tries to read the messages, and then we'll go ahead and do loading the conversations in properly later on. So inside of our conversation container, we're going to go ahead and add in a const token about right here. We can say const token is equal to use selector. And we'll go ahead and say state root state, and then here we're going to say state dot user dot token, and then we're going to go ahead and add in some more things here. So here I'll say const unread messages is equal to use selector, and this is going to be state, maybe state root state. And this is going to be state.message.unread messages. And then we're going to have a const conversation state is equal to use selector. And this is going to be state root state. And here this will be state.message.conversation. And finally, we'll have const dispatch as an app dispatch. I don't actually know how much of this state we use because I think I did get rid of some of this, but this will be a use dispatch, and we definitely need this to go ahead and dispatch the red messages. I don't know why that looks weird, but I think it's fine. And then we're going to come down here, and I think this is inside the use effect. So we'll go ahead and add a new if statement. We'll say if we're logged in and we have a token, and we're going to say unread messages dot sum, and we probably could have made this a little bit prettier. Message, and then this is going to be message dot message, and we'll say messages and message dot conversation ID is equal to messages 0 dot conversation ID, and let me make sure there's nothing else in here. This is really ugly, but this is just checking the conversation ID is the same as the message that we're trying to read, or something similar to that. But here, and let's see if this is broken. I think I just spelled unread messages wrong. Other than that, it's not broken. Cool. So basically, we just want to make sure that we have the correct conversation ID whenever we send this over. We're going to go ahead and dispatch, and this is going to be red messages like so. And then inside of red messages, we're going to go ahead and pass back the user ID, which will be logged in dot user ID. We're going to pass back the conversation ID, which is the conversation dot conversation ID, and we're also going to pass back the token. So that is good to go. So now whenever we try to open up our conversation, it'll go ahead and work. And then we have an issue here where we want to update this. So this is going to go ahead, we're going to say conversation state, and then this is going to be conversation states conversation message map. Excuse me, I don't remember why we changed this. It might have been me playing around trying to get the messages to update properly again, but it is what it is. Also, I'm going to check one thing with this message.length. I think we might have updated what this is watching, but maybe we didn't. Let me be right back, and I'm going to check this. Okay, so I guess we didn't actually change that, so that's good to go. So now we need to go ahead and update our use WebSocket hook to go ahead and be able to disconnect from the WebSocket. That way, if something weird happens, we aren't connected to it a million times. So let's hop into our use WebSocket hook. So inside here, underneath our on connected, we're going to set up a new function. I'm going to go ahead and say function, and this is going to be called disconnect. And this is going to be pretty simple. It's going to check if we have our user and we have a stomp client, stomp client and connected. I don't know if we need the connected anymore, but we'll go ahead and say set connected to false. We might want to get rid of and connected, because if we just have a stomp client in general, I think that is enough to be able to warrant disconnecting, but it's fine. We'll say stomp client, stomp client dot disconnect, and then here we'll go ahead and say on disconnected, and we need to go ahead and make this on disconnected. So function on disconnected, and then here we're going to just go ahead and say if we have our stomp client and user once again, and if that's the case, we'll go ahead and say stomp client dot unsub, and I spelled stomp client wrong, stomp client dot unsubscribe, and we're going to go ahead and unsubscribe from /user /$ curly brace user. I don't think we need the question mark anymore. Username / notifications, and we'll also go ahead and say stomp client dot unsubscribe to backtick /user /$ curly brace user dot username / and then messages. So if we reload the application or something happens, we can go ahead and basically unconnect or disconnect from the WebSocket. That way, whenever it reloads, we're not connected to it twice. Well, now we have disconnect. Let's go ahead and return our disconnect. So we have our here disconnect like so. And then now the part that scares me a lot, that's probably going to mess a lot of stuff up, is in the app.tsx. Let's hop in there. So here we need to bring in a bunch of stuff. So we have our user, we have our conversations, but we're going to update the user. Instead of being state.user.logged in, we're just going to go and pass back state.user. And then we're also going to go ahead and rename this to message state. So we're just going to go ahead and say message state, and then this is going to be state.message. So let's go ahead and change this. And we're going to have one more thing here. We're going to go ahead and say const dispatch is an app dispatch equal to use dispatch, like so. And then finally, we need to go ahead and bring in disconnect, like so. And this is going to break a few things, and that is fine. So now what we're going to go ahead and do is we're still going to have connect and everything. And this should probably just be first, to be honest, but it is what it is. But we're going to go ahead and say if our user.logged-in and if our user.token and whoops, if I could type and not message state dot init complete. So we're going to go ahead and check for all of that stuff. And we can also go ahead and check the user dot logged in here as well, just to go ahead and make this a little bit better. So user dot logged in, and we'll have to do one more update, but I just wanted to get the error to go away. So if this is the case, we're going to go ahead and dispatch, and we're going to go ahead and dispatch load conversations to try to go and fetch that stuff. And here we're going to go ahead and say user ID is user dot logged in dot user ID. It's a little bit more messy, but it is what it is. And then token is user dot token. I just did it this way because I wanted to pull out the token in the logged in. We could have technically said token and logged in is equal to that, but it is what it is. So now we're also going to go ahead and check if user not logged in or is user logged in and not connected. We're also going to go ahead and check to see if our message stays completed. So we're going to add message state dot init complete and not connected, and then this should help us have the data that we want whenever we get to that point. And finally, we're going to return an arrow function and make sure we disconnect whenever this disconnects. So this will go ahead and say disconnect and call disconnect whenever we reload the application. And then now we need to go ahead and fix this. So let's say user dot logged in. We'll go ahead and say user dot token. We'll go ahead and say message state dot init complete. So instead of conversations, this would be message state dot init complete. So we'll go ahead and watch for that stuff, and now that should be good to go. The last thing that we need to go ahead and do is update the notification slice to actually get rid of the notifications themselves. So let's go and hop into the notification slice. Inside the notification slice, we're just going to quickly make a new regular old thunk here. So let's scroll down underneath this received notification, and then here we're just going to go ahead and say read message notifications. And actually I might have put this in the wrong spot. Did I? I can't tell. We'll go ahead and try this again. Read message notifications, and then this will take in state and action, and this will be a payload. Whoops, maybe payload action, and this will be a notification array, like so. And then in here, what we're going to basically do is just get rid of, and I spelled notification wrong. We're going to basically replace all of the notification or message notifications with the notification that we got passed. I'm going to say state is equal to ... state, and then it's going to be message notifications as action.payload, like so. And then we'll go ahead and return the state, and then all we need to go and do is come down here and return this. So let's scroll down, and now we need to go ahead and pass back read message notifications, like that. Save it, and then we need to go ahead and go back to the message slice to call this reducer. So now here we need to go up to where we create our async thunk for our read messages. So here, and then before we return the data, we'll go ahead and say thunk API dot dispatch, and we're going to go ahead and dispatch a read messages notification. We're going to pass back, this says res.data. I don't know if it's supposed to be res.data. I'm pretty sure it should be res.data.notifications, but maybe it's fine. And then finally, we need to go ahead and update our navigation component to get rid of that dot. So let's hop into there. And then in here, what we need to go and do is we're going to pass in a new piece of state. So we're going to go ahead and grab the unread messages. So this is going to say const, whoops, unread messages is equal to use selector. And this will be state, maybe root state. We'll pass back state dot message.unread messages, I believe is what we're bringing in. And then what we'll go ahead and do, and why is unread messages mad? Is it because we already have this somewhere or what? No, okay. Now I want to come down to where we have our navigation wrapper for our notifications. So now we have, this is saying like if our notification.message notifications.length. So this is incorrect because we want the ones that are actually unread. So we're going to go ahead and say unread messages.length is greater than 0 and save that. And now fingers crossed everything's actually working. I don't have high hopes because I changed a lot of code and there's a lot of finicky stuff that could break, but let's go ahead and try to hop in, give it a refresh, see what happens, and then maybe debug whatever's wrong. So right now the application is running, so that is a pretty good sign. Let's just make sure we can open up a conversation, and that works fine. So conversation still opens, so that's good to go. So now let's simulate getting a message from Rick. I'm going to open up Postman on the side. So now I'm going to go ahead and post a message from Rick. Let me go ahead and change this slightly. Okay, if we send a message, we should get a blue notification. So that's good. If we go ahead and open this guy up, and message did not get read. So let's see what's going on here. We got to read a message rejected actually. Oh, you know what? I typoed this. Okay, let's see if we get the request back this time. We open up the messages, we open this, there we go. So you can see it read our message, it went ahead and got rid of our messages notification. Now the other thing that was big that I really wanted to check and make sure it worked is if we have the conversation open, we get another message from Rick. Let me go ahead and send another one. This is the one that caused a lot of issues because for whatever reason, the conversation wasn't getting loaded properly and everything. So let's send this, and there we go. It read it instantly. Cool. So that is reading conversations. I could have done it so that like we put on a observer on this, but the observers are kind of gross and don't work very well. So that's good to go. We only had one small issue, which was just a typo. So luckily that wasn't too bad to fix. Next episode, I'll probably go ahead and start working on either the reacting and interesting. That's not good. This code didn't get pushed to main. I need to look into that. Or this guy. I need to look at why this code's not pushed to main. Hopefully it's still in the branch and I can just push it, but this should definitely be here. So that's scary. I don't know what happened there, but I'll go ahead and get that fixed back up. And also, why did our messages go back to being unread? I don't know. It should be working though. I'll look into that as well. And if there is a bug, I'll get that fixed, but it should be reading it. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap it up here just because it's getting a little bit long. Hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Everything helps out here with the YouTube algorithm. And if you guys do want to see where we start from absolute scratch to get to the point we are now, there is a playlist linked on the end card that I'll go ahead and walk through that. But as always, guys, this has been Ethan and Coder. Hope you have a great day, and I'll see you all in the next video.